I gotta come up with a special dance for this one.
Yeah. Right? Because we can really only move our upper bodies.
Yeah, you can't see what's going on below the desk, guys. It's a lot.
We need an In My Feelings just for your upper torso. Oh my God!
She got the scoop on pop culture news, so grab a drink. It ain't what you think. It's Sarah and the crew.
You guys, it is Monday, and that means a brand new Hey Frase show live on Facebook and, of course, podcast. You can always find the show. Just go to facebook.com, hit Sarah Fraser pages, boom, and we are live at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. I'm your host, Sarah Fraser. I am here with producer AJ, who is in studio with me today. We have an incredible show. I am so excited about our guest. I'm saying it correctly. Rabia Chaudry is our special guest. She's going to be on with us today.
Which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it is so incredible because if you don't know that name, you will once I say Serial Podcast.
Yeah.
And essentially, Rabia is the woman who started an incredible true crime movement. And Rabia was dear friends and still is with Adnan Syed, who, of course, was the subject of the Serial Podcast. Rabia is an attorney. She's a mom. She lives in Maryland, and she's an advocate. She also hosts Undisclosed Podcast and 45th Pod, both exploring the justice system. So she's going to be on with us today because over the past year, I mean, the Adnan Syed story has lost like a little bit of steam, I think, because hasn't been like right in the public eye.
Yep.
But there's been a lot of new developments. HBO is getting ready to launch a docuseries. And so Rabia is going to be on with us to talk about how Adnan is doing. And surprisingly enough, I don't know that Rabia and her family, I don't know how wild they have been. I think they're very grateful for the serial coverage, but I'm not sure that they loved everything that went down.
Well, I mean, it's so hard to have that going through with your family.
I know.
Especially, it affects everybody in the family.
It really does. And I think that they were not happy that Serial all these years has never really taken a stance in saying, is Adnan innocent or is he guilty? And of course, right. Rabia, who's been a family friend of Adnan's for years, says that he is innocent, that Undisclosed Podcast breaks it down as to how he is innocent. But we're going to talk to her live, so I can't wait.
I can't wait to hear what she has to say about it.
In the meantime, we have to 100% shift gears because I'm having a hard time looking at you today.
Oh, God, why? Did I do something wrong? What's going on?
You really do. I had a dream over the weekend, my first sex dream of a coworker, and it is so awkward. No, I really
I'm sorry,
did.
Tell me it's Rob Spiewak.
No.
Tell me it's Oscar Santana.
No, it was you. Oh my God. Dead serious. I know. I can't even believe this, but honest to God, this is so embarrassing. I was using my vibrator on my bed, and
I'm
you
sorry.
were
Did any of you guys know this in the control room? Did anybody hear this story before me? I'm sorry.
What the heck?
What the hell is going on?
I am not kidding. I'm not kidding. This happened last night. Last night, I'm having a vivid dream that I am on my bed. Not only that, this is how embarrassing it was and how much I remember. First of all, I was completely Winnie the Poohing it. Like, I had a T-shirt on in the dream, completely using my vibrator on the bed, not like under the sheets, like on top of the bed, and you were running around my apartment styling me, like with clothes.
What?
Okay, this is so... I know. I don't even know how I'm looking at you.
And what am I acting like in the dream? Like, did I act like a normal Andrea?
You were completely like walking around. Like you were completely walking around like it was totally. God. You were like, it's fine, and I'm completely.
Are you mooing? Are you doing anything?
No, I remember in the dream thinking I have to stop doing this like in front of AJ. This is odd, and like I didn't even stop.
Was it nighttime or was it just midday?
Midday vibes.
Oh. My God.
Leslie, who's our digital content creator, she's in studio today. What?
Can I say something?
Of course you can.
Wait, I thought it was like a sex dream that you had with AJ.
Oh, no. But I feel like...
that would have been way worse. That would have been a million times worse.
Is it worse? I feel like it would have been better if we'd have having sex instead of you watching me use my vibrator.
I wasn't even watching. I probably was doing one of these, like, oh, it's fine. It doesn't bother me at all.
You weren't. You were
I
not
was into it. I was
face.
watching you.
You were completely like relaxed. Yeah.
Okay, but I wasn't like, oh yeah, do it harder, right? I wasn't encouraging you like your little cheerleader. I was choosing outfits, right?
You were like choosing outfits, but you were completely walking by. It was so uncomfortable.
Was Dan there? Oh, by the way, so I went to the apartment on Friday, and I totally felt like third wheel, like kind of your child.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah, because, well, what day was it? I don't know what day we were there, but I was just hanging out.
No, it was Friday. It was Friday, yeah.
And yeah, so Sarah and Dan, it was like, mom and dad. I was just hanging out. We were Dan made us lunch. Like, he was like, oh, I found this amazing recipe in the Washington Times for hummus. And I was like, you guys are the cutest couple ever. So he just runs over to Whole Foods and makes us he serves it to us. He's like, oh, can I clean that up for you, AJ? I'm like, thank you. And you guys were so cute. And you just kept saying, hey, babe. Hey, babe. You guys are that couple that says, babe.
I know, we really are.
All the time.
So did you get the sense that I really like him? Like,
of course.
Okay. See, I just feel like we have to tell people that because people listen to this podcast and they think I don't love Dan.
They're so in love. Dan's like, oh, I'm going to go make hummus. And then Sarah's like, okay, babe. See you later, gorge, doll. I was like, the names that they have for each other, you'd think that they are like...
Sarah, you can't say that anymore, okay?
Oh, I know. We're trying not to because I got a message on Instagram and now I get more messages from people. I comment on how gorgeous you guys both are. And people say, as someone like myself, who's a very big advocate for women, I should not lead with how gorgeous you two are. I should say that you guys are smart and witty and assertive and leave out the beauty stuff because we're all so hung up on. But I think everybody is beautiful. I really do.
I do too.
I think there's so much beauty in this world.
I completely agree. And I don't think you're downgrading or saying something bad about us by saying gorge first. I mean...
Well, when Sammy K was on the show, he felt like I should be using my platform as a different message. Like, it's okay to say that in real life, but then, like, I shouldn't be projecting that out in the public eye, which, of course, I love Sammy. I love what he has to say. So then
Sammy's like, you're not going to say, I'm this hot hunk over here. You're going to say, Sammy's smart and successful.
I think Sammy K is very hot, like, in his own right. He's got that, like, Leslie's shaking her head. No? Okay, wow.
No, he definitely has that, like, smoker chill vibes. Like, I loved his white T-shirt with the suit jacket. I thought he looked like super dad cool.
Yes, he looks dad chic.
Yeah.
And gorgeous.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Silence.
Okay. Anyway, AJ did come over to our apartment on Friday, and Dan made us lunch. He made his own homemade hummus with a little olive oil, salt, and pepper,
which was delicious, by the way. And you guys should check out the Washington Times article. My mom was all about it too. She went straight to the website, found it, wants to make hummus now. If you're a hummus, for your chickpeas, it makes you fart, but
yeah. Or that. Anyway, I had to tell you that because it was so crazy. Maybe it was because I saw you on Friday. Then I had the dream about you. I would have rather been having sex with you. I feel like that would have been less intimate than having my vibrator out, full spread legs, and you were just like walking around my apartment. It was very uncomfortable. I
guess
really
you're not
bad.
comfortable because I have a dog, and sometimes I'll let my dog in my room, and she just sits there while I masturbate. And some people are super against that, and I don't want her to look at me, so I'll cover her with a blanket, but she's still in the room. So you must feel weird about that.
And that seems to be an ongoing issue and topic on this show, too, is a selfie in front of your pets or like when your pet is in the room. We get emails about that all the time. Well, you can always email the show. It's Sarah with an H at heyfrase.com. Have you had a dream about hooking up with or, vibrating yourself in front of your coworkers? I'm sure you have. We have to thank some of our sponsors, by the way. They'll love this. BioClarity, what
great
a transition. Yeah, great lead in, right? BioClarity, you've seen it on my Instagram, which is at HeyFrase. I have been using them as my new skincare routine, and they are amazing. They have 2 skincare routines that have 3 steps, and then Floralux is their secret treatment. They have one for essentials, which is if you have more oily and acne-prone skin, and then they also have a clearing skin routine, which is what I use for more normal to dry skin, and I definitely have that. So you want to go to bioclarity.com. They're unbelievable. They use all natural ingredients, including Floralux, which uses chlorophyll from plants. It's unbelievable. It's a little powerhouse that helps reduce the appearance of redness, feed and defend cells with an alphabet of nutrients, and boost your natural beauty. It's ultra nourishing, nutrient rich, redness reducing, as I mentioned, healing, and an antioxidant overachiever. You will love it. Plus, this is what I love about BioClarity. 100% vegan, cruelty-free, paraben-free, sulfate-free, gluten-free, and fragrance-free. Yes! I get migraines, AJ, that are like triggered by fragrance. So
I've heard that before.
I love using BioClarity because you don't have to deal with all the fragrance. My listeners get 50% off a routine. Everyone has been commenting on my social media as well that it's very affordable. The price points for these products are really reasonable in the $20 range and the $30 range. I'm obsessed with their mask. And I think that's important to mix and match. I hate having to buy like $75 for one cream. It's
I know.
So expensive. So my listeners get 50% off a routine. Shipping is totally free and it's risk-free as well. If you don't like it, you get your money back and they have a money-back guarantee. Go to bioclarity.com, order your first routine. Put in code Frase, Frase, and then you get the clear skin or the essentials. Try it 50% off. Use code Frase on your first routine. We also have to thank Jessica Claros. Yay! We've been talking about this. She got her first client from the Hey Frase podcast. You guys are amazing. You want to know how to support the show, support everybody that works on the show, then please, please, please buy from our sponsors. Use them, call them. Jessica Claros is in Maryland, and she is a certified insurance agent with Farmers Insurance. She takes care of your auto, your home, life, long-term, short-term disability. I have that insurance. You need it. For the first time ever, I got my life insurance policy, and that is literally how my mom survived after my dad passed away when I was in high school. Jessica Claros is in Silver Spring, Maryland. You can go to farmers.com/Jessica Claros, or you can call her. She handles everybody in Maryland. Her number is 301-273-1133. And then, of course, you need your auto, you need your home insurance because you've just bought a home and you got your mortgage through Mark Livingstone at Cornerstone First. How much do we love Mark Livingstone?
Love the man.
Isn't he amazing?
Like, I want to take him out for drinks and then I want to pay for him.
Actually, we need to get him back on this show because I need to find out. He was going to go on a date with a listener. So I need to find out, like, whatever happened.
Oh, my God.
I know. I need a follow-up.
I want to be a fly on the wall with Mark's dates.
I know. He's super fun.
Super
but
funny.
Mark and his team takes care of your mortgage needs. If you're in the market to buy a house, even if you're buying your second home, you're on your third home, they got you at Cornerstone First Financial. Go to heyfrase.com. Any application fees that you might acquire are completely waived when you tell him Hey Frase sent you, okay? So you can be applying for your mortgage. Dan and I just got approved. We are currently looking for apartments and condos around the Virginia area. So,
Good news.
Yeah. So absolutely. Check out Mark Livingstone for sure and let them know that Hey Frase sent you. Okay. I want to get to a couple of stories and I want to find out around this office, right? Because we podcast at Podcast Village. That's where we do all of our live shows, everything. So Leslie and AJ constantly talk about this show, Riverdale. Am I getting it right?
Yes.
I want to know what the obsession is because you two are like two 8th graders talking about like how everyone's hot, who the characters are, who we need to know, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you where this show is. Is this show on Netflix?
So it's on Netflix, but it's a CW series,
Yes.
and I'm so excited that Leslie watches it too because she can back me up on all the stuff.
Excuse me, I watched it first.
You're
and
right,
Then
she
you
did.
Came into the picture.
But what I'm
Thank you.
annoyed with you is that you didn't even tell me about this. I had to find it on Netflix when I was in a binge fest, and then I came in. You're like, oh, I watched that too. I'm like, well, you didn't let me know about it.
You
Well,
guys-
I didn't even know that was the style you liked in series.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll give you a quick little.
You guys have to tell us what the hell is Riverdale all about? Because I know nothing about this show.
So it's super drama filled. It's based off of Archie comics. So they name all the characters like it: Archie, Veronica, Betty, Cooper, and there's a murder in the town, and just like the whole entire. There's 2 seasons. I think they're filming the 3rd, right, Leslie?
Yes.
Do you know when the 3rd one's coming out?
Not yet.
I don't know.
But
So
I'm so happy that it's coming out soon.
So we fight on this because there's 2 main lead guys. There's Jughead Jones, who is Cole Sprouse. You guys know him from
Oh yes,
the
from
Sweet
Sweet
Life.
of Zack and Cody,
Exactly.
and Big Daddy, and all of these great movies as well. Thank you.
Okay, so obviously you know who Leslie likes, and I like Archie, who's the redhead, who is he's New Zealand, so he has an accent. He's so freaking hot. I mean, okay, this picture doesn't do him justice. I guess I chose all these smaller images, but okay, so he's redhead. He has like an 8-pack. He's just like the
All right, he's kind of
heroine of the series. Like,
What's this guy's name in real life?
what is it? KJ Appa?
KJ Appa.
That's the actor. Okay,
Yes.
in real life. I got to Google these people.
Amazing.
He's super young, and he just got this part, and now he's just blown up insanely.
Oh.
And he skateboards, he bikes, he's super active. He's an actor. He plays the guitar. Swoon, and they're just
Yeah, but Cole Sprouse is just
How the
much
hell? I mean,
better,
okay,
of
Shannon and
course.
I are like, Shannon is our other digital content creator. She does audio. We're like, I don't know anything about these people. Like, you guys act like this is, I don't know. I'm trying to even think. Okay.
I watched the show.
You
Okay,
watch the
do you
show
watch
too?
it?
Oh my God, where the hell have you
to the
been?
good.
Okay, she's like not even. She's being quiet over there.
Yeah, I watch it, and that guy is super hot.
Isn't he? Okay, do you
Oh
think?
my gosh.
Do you think Jughead
No.
is hot?
What?
Ew, with his
is a
oh my
nerd.
God.
No. Excuse me.
You need to get on the mic too. Oh my God.
Jughead
Jughead's not
is
cute.
amazing. I
With
love
his
him.
gross ass crown
no.
hat, his beanie.
Oh, I know. Oh my
Please.
gosh, that
That
hat.
looks like it
Barf.
stinks.
No,
Okay.
that's just a person, character. He
Un
is
character.
amazing in real life. He's just hottie, goals. I
Can
would
you
be
pull
with
up a
him in
photo
a
of him?
heartbeat. Of
A
course.
good
So I brought up,
Okay.
hopefully some of these pictures are not as pixelated.
So, wait a second. I have a question, though. Like, why? Do these people have superpowers in this or no?
Basically,
No.
they're the,
No.
yeah, they don't.
They're
But
just teenagers.
that's the crazy thing is that they're dealing with murder and they're teenagers. Like, what teenager is dealing with their dads and everybody's murder? And they're like the crime solvers. They're like, we must go and form this army. So to that extent, it's like, okay, get over yourselves. You're literally in 9th grade and nobody looks like that.
Of course, but
Oh my
they,
God.
but
It's
they
still
get you
drama
going,
filled.
right? They get you going.
But I will say this: I'm going to a party.
going, Leslie.
It gets you going. Okay. I'm not.
I mean, no, wait. I'm saying that it gets you going. The series.
Oh, like yes, like you get hooked, and then I had to
Yeah.
keep watching it, so now I'm hooked.
Yeah.
And but I will say that my friend, I found this out after I watched it, and now of course I'm trying to reconnect with her. So we haven't talked since college.
Okay.
But her brother is the gay character, the really funny one who's awesome.
Oh,
Yes, he's so cute.
What? He's so
Betty's
cute.
friend?
Yes. But,
Okay.
okay. What
That
is
is-
his
yeah.
name?
He's the kid from the cops.
The cop's son.
Cop's
yeah.
son.
I
Cooper.
forgot
No,
his
that's no.
No, that's
Betty's last name.
Okay, so he's a cop's son. He's super amazing. He plays a gay character. And there's also gay relationships. There's something for everybody. I know you say that about every series. You're like, there's something for everybody in this show.
Oh, but
there
this one?
is. Oh, but this one. So, okay, so my friend from college, her brother plays this character, and he's like this amazing, phenomenal actor. And her other brother is a famous Broadway star. And she's having her birthday party on a New York City rooftop on Saturday.
Are you going?
Well, yeah.
You need
I
to
mean,
go
I'm trying to
because
go.
these people
'Cause
need
they're
to
gonna
get.
be there. My mom's like, "This is your ticket," and I didn't even tell Iggy. I'm like, "Okay, fuck you. I'm gonna."
You have to invite me, girl.
If I-
If, oh my God, if Cole Sprouse is there, I'm gonna die.
Dead. She is
Muerta.
best friends
O sea,
with all
muerta.
of those guys. She has pictures with all of them. She has pictures with Queer Eye for the Straight, like all. She's like in the circle. So she's having this rooftop
Hook
party,
me
and she
up,
says,
girl.
"Invite everybody." And I'm like,
Oh my God.
"You know, I'm gonna come with a crew." All right, so that's my spiel about Riverdale. Everyone should go watch it. It's on the CW.
Okay, I gotta watch because
You
I'm
have to
just
watch.
worried this is gonna be too like teeny bopperish for me. Like,
Well, if you do enjoy high school shows, then you will enjoy it.
You're
I
not.
do.
I'm sorry, but you're not selling it.
No.
gee, yeah, no.
But, well, I mean, I'm 32 and I watch it.
You're right.
So
And you're
it
right.
is a
All
good
right.
show. It is like a good show. The acting is good.
Yeah, of
CW
course.
shows are good though.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
Cheryl
I mean, let me
is
say this.
the hottest lipstick lesbian you'll ever see in your entire life.
Oh
She's
my
this
God.
Yeah.
This
Oh my
sounds
God.
gorgeous,
She
gorgeous
is
girl.
amazing.
I think
Okay.
I put a picture. Anyways,
Well,
Oh, she's gorgeous.
Leslie, what
So
do you
hot.
want to say before we get Rabia on the line? Oh my God, on Skype.
I mean, of course, it's gonna be a great show with great actors because Cole Sprouse is there.
he sucks.
Duh.
Everybody, he sucks.
Okay,
Suck my left nut.
these two go back and forth all the time on this show. I swear to God, I'm gonna have to tune in. I'm just really worried that no.
You guys
I mean, the
have to.
last show I watched on CW, I think, was Smallville, and I don't even know what the hell happened to that.
I want to know if listeners, if Sarah watches this show, do you guys want us to do an after Riverdale show where we recap the show in the episode and we say like all of our comments? Comment yes or no. Let us know.
Oh my God. All right, yeah, email sarah@heyfrase.com. Rabia Chaudry is going to be joining us. These guys are getting her hooked up on Skype, so she's going to be on the show. You know that name because of the years that she spent. She is literally the one that brought Adnan Syed's story to NPR, to Sarah Koenig. So we're going to have her on. I want to do one quick story with you and get your take on this before we get Rabia on the line. So how do you feel about this? But recently there's been some stories as far as like keeping positivity. These three little words are making you a negative person, and you probably say them all the time. Okay. Are there any three words, AJ, that you say that you feel are making you a negative person? Like once I heard these, I was like, oh my God.
I always say that I'm like everybody's. They ask me if I'm okay, and I'm like I'm fine, but really I'm dying inside. If you lie about it,
fine.
like I'm fine.
No,
and you
that's
try to
actually good. No,
smile.
according to this article, you should keep faking it. Yeah.
Oh, keep faking it. Okay, great. Even though I'm dying inside, and there's like,
Are you really? No.
well, a lot of the time people ask me like, "Are you okay?" And I just fake a smile. I'm like, of course, everything's
Well,
fine.
here's the thing. Like, I've known you now for a year,
Right.
and you are so talented and so smart.
thank
I
you,
think
Sarah.
that you just are like a lot of, I would imagine, young 23-year-olds in the sense of, I feel like you have a lot of, like, you
There's
put
so much pressure to
Yeah, but-
succeed, and social media does not help with that. You're seeing your friends, and they're living in New York, and they look like they have everything. And not that I want to compare myself, but you always think like I need to do more.
you are.
Right. So don't compare yourself. But then of course I'm looking at all these people, and
You're
so, yeah.
literally 23.
I always have to remind myself because we should be so far there. You know, everybody's
You are
always saying
working in the
Right.
media business.
right, which is
which is
a hard one.
A hard one.
Yeah,
you're
for sure.
on air. You're learning audio. You're learning video. You're
Right.
learning all these amazing things.
Right.
Like you have to give yourself credit, and you're actually making like an income. It's not where you want it to be, but it's a start.
100%. I am so thankful, and I have to tell myself all the stuff that I'm thankful for.
Well, I just want to tell you this really quickly, and then Rabia is on the phone, but it's when you say things like, I have to. According to the article, a Life is Good article, you are supposed to be sending out good vibes all the time. So I have to is bringing you negative energy, if you believe this. They say, I get to. So when you do things like, I have to go to the store.
Oh my God, I do that.
I have to get a teeth.
That's all I say.
Me too. They're saying that I get to. It's something that companies like Life is Good, which sends positive messages through all kinds of apparel and goods, encourage their employees and customers to do. They say it elevates not only a workplace, but your own mental health. It's a privilege, they say. And really, we're all lucky to be able to do things like being able to go to the store, to take care of yourself. I have to go to spin class. You get to go. You get to work on your health. They're saying changing that mindset and those words can have a huge effect. Isn't that great? I never even thought about that.
I'm really going to try that. I'm going to come back and see if it works because I'm always saying I have to go to the gym. I have to go grocery shopping. I have to go work. Yeah, like all that stuff. And I never feel like doing it. I force myself almost. So I'm going to say I get the privilege to do this.
Rabia is on the phone with us right now. Rabia, are you here?
I am. Hi, guys.
Hi, Rabia. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
So good. Thank you for being on with us. I, like everybody else, have been obsessed and following Adnan's story. And you and I met about a year ago at Channel 5. And I just wanted to have you on because I admire you and everything that you have done. And you are such an inspiration of how you have changed and brought such awareness to the justice system. And especially, of course, to Adnan's story. So thank you for being on with us.
Oh, God, it's my pleasure. And thank you for all those nice words. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I hate to say it's terrible, but I've had tunnel vision just to be helping Adnan all these years. And there have been people who've been doing criminal justice and wrongful conviction work for decades. So I can't take credit for the years of work others have put in, but thank you.
Yes. So, Rabia, tell me this. You know, I've been refreshing myself, and of course, like everyone, you know, I listen to Serial. Start from the beginning. Like, I am so fascinated because you're the one that literally pitched Adnan's story to Sarah Koenig and NPR. So, take us back. Like, did that just happen like one email? Had you been emailing them for a while? How did that story actually get picked up?
So what happened was it was in I think about a month or so after we had an appeal hearing, and it went very badly for us.
Okay.
And that was the appeal hearing we had prepared for 10 years.
Wow.
And his alibi witness didn't show up. And I testified there, but I knew we were going to lose. And, you know, I had been thinking about, like, I should contact somebody in the media, somebody who's like an investigative journalist, because they can like dig into stories in a way that lawyers can't. We have a lot of like ethical boundaries we can't cross and things like that. So I was this one night watching on Netflix West of Memphis, which was a documentary about the West Memphis 3 case.
Oh, sure.
If anybody's familiar with that, but there's been a lot of movies made about that incident. It's a terrible crime. And after I watched it, I said, you know what? And that filmmaker was so impressive, the documentarian who made that film. And she really changed the entire, like, what I thought actually had happened in the case. She completely changed my mind. And I was like, this is why we need an investigative journalist. So that night I turned off the TV and I said, well, I'm not going to ask Adnan or his family. I'm just going to see if I can find somebody.
Wow.
And I went on. Yeah, and what I did was I looked for a Baltimore journalist who had written about the case or about his lawyer back in the 90s. And Sarah Koenig had written about Adnan's lawyer being disbarred in the 90s. So I hunted her down online, and she was now working at This American Life. And I said, you know, let me just shoot her an email. And I did. Like, all this took place in the matter of like 10 minutes after I was done. And 2 days later, she responded and said, I'm going to come see you. And she came and saw me and my brother about a week later. And that meeting is what you hear in the very first episode of Serial. And then she was just kind of hooked, and that was it.
And we were talking about, you know, as a show, you grew up with Adnan. So you have seen him, you know, you're like a big sister to him, essentially, which is how you knew him, correct?
Yeah, he's my younger brother's best friend since they were about 13 or 14. So we didn't really grow up together. I was an adult, you know, by the time they were friends,
Sure.
I was like, you know, in law school, or I was already like, yeah, or maybe I was like in college. But the point is, you know, when I would go home, like, you know, when I would visit my parents on the weekends from my dorm, you know, he'd be kicking it with my brother, and And so I just kind of, but I also knew him from the community. His parents lived just a few streets away from my parents. I would see them at the mosque. Like, kind of like he was just one of the neighborhood kids.
Right, absolutely. So we all know what happened with, the Serial. We all listened, to that. And when I was researching for this interview with you, I was seeing some interviews. So overall, were you guys actually happy with Serial, or was it kind of like you'd always wished that they had taken a stronger stance in that Adnan was innocent?
Yeah, so after Sarah became interested in the story, I had to then sell it to Adnan, and I had to sell it to his lawyer and his family and tell them, trust me here. And Sarah had said to me, and after spending a number of months looking at the case, she said, yeah, we're going to do like a full deep dive. And she's like, honestly, and she told me, and she also told one of his lawyers, his old lawyers, that I wouldn't do this if I didn't think he was innocent. And there were many times in the year that she investigated the case, she said similar things. And also, she had a really great personal relationship with Adnan that was never reflected in the podcast. So it was really weird listening to, like, week after week, her say, well, maybe he's a wonderful guy. Maybe he's a psychopath, when privately she's like, a friend, her kids, like communicate with him. And it was like, and I understand, like, there was a value to that in terms of keeping people hooked
Sure.
on the podcast. But so there were things that bothered us, but I felt like it was still worth it because it brought so much attention to the case. And then as a lawyer, I told her even at the time, I said, she's not an investigative journalist. They didn't have any lawyers or criminal investigators on their team. And I think it would have helped them if they had. They told an amazing story because they're great storytellers.
Sure.
I'll give you like one example of the like an issue that I had, and I said, you did 12 episodes on a murder case, but not one episode was about the autopsy report. Like, look, like
Yes.
if you're investigating a murder case, the very first place you want to start, if there's no other evidence, is the body. The body has evidence, So it was things like that they just kind of missed, and so it wasn't. That doesn't mean that what they, we're thrilled with what they did.
Sure.
I just wish at some point they would say, hi, we're going to come back and do an update on everything that's happened since we covered this case, because a lot's happened. But, of course they have the right to move on as well. So
And that's what they've decided to do, right? They've kind of, obviously they had a Serial second season, which was Bo Bergdahl. So they've never come back to you guys so far to want to do an update.
No. Well, so actually when Adnan got a second shot at the same appeal hearing he lost that all those years ago before I contacted Sarah Koenig to show up. She showed up for the hearing for a few days, and she did report on that. But since then they haven't done anything. I think maybe they blogged once when his conviction was overturned, because his conviction was overturned. But they haven't really dug deep into it, and I think that's okay. Other people are carrying the story on. There's a documentary team that's been working on it for a few years.
Sure.
And so there's a lot more to be told to the story.
I know, and of course you're a part of the very, very successful Undisclosed podcast, which really dug deeper into this and kind of talked about those situations that really, from your point of view, proves that Adnan is innocent. So tell us a little bit about that. Undisclosed has had hundreds of millions of downloads, but for anyone who hasn't heard it, what are some of the other points that really prove that Adnan is innocent? Because I'm with you, leaving Serial, and of course I've read everything since, and the interviews that some outlets did with Jay, who was always the very shady figure, in this. But Serial does leave it like, well, I don't know, did Adnan do it? And they kind of at times went into Adnan's character that he had a darker side, which of course everybody, no one lives a perfect life. So what are some of the things you cover?
Was he took $20 from the mosque when he was 13, 14. Right.
Right. But they leave that like it was a lot more money, right? I mean, I remember it being like a bigger deal, I think, in Serial than it was in real life.
Right. I mean, that episode was hard on all of us, because I said, you really are going to report on something. And that's not even something Adnan's like, yeah, I did do it. I was a kid. I was stupid. I wanted to like play arcade games. How is that in any way relevant to a murder, like a violent crime, right?
Right.
Instead of, and then you have Jay Wiles, who's a state's witness, who, by the way, and I told Sarah the records are public, that he had a criminal record after all of this happened. He had been arrested for trying to choke his, baby's mother.
Yes.
I mean, So, but she didn't report it at all in the podcast. So anyhow, when you talk about Undisclosed, what happened was with Undisclosed, and it's the Undisclosed podcast is not even so much my perspective. What happened was, as Serial was ongoing, lots of people were writing about Serial, podcasting about Serial, and I came across two lawyers who were blogging about the case. I didn't know them at all. Susan Simpson and Colin Miller. Colin is a professor of law, and then Susan is a white-collar attorney in D.C., but she's like an incredible investigator. So she was looking at the documents that I was putting online and really seeing things that nobody had noticed before, including, for example, she's the one who found, I mean, not found, it was there, but nobody noticed it. Like,
Sure.
A cover sheet that was attached to, like a fax cover sheet that was attached to cell phone records. And these are the records that the state used to prove that Adnan was here that day. He was here that day. And so AT&T, when they faxed those records over to the state in 99, on the fax cover sheet, and nobody reads fax cover sheets except for Susan Simpson, it says, there's a line that says, cell tower information cannot be used for location status. Like, it's clearly telling you that the technology is wonky. Like, you can't. So, and just this week, I read an article that said using those records from back then before GPS, like the phone could have been in like a 40-mile range of those towers.
Wow.
So those are that point got the conviction overturned once. So that was something Susan found. But anyhow, when I'm reading these lawyers' blogs, I'm like, I got to contact them. And then so we came together, and much of Undisclosed, the first season, was like 35, 40 episodes. It was the stuff that Susan and Colin found. And another thing, for example, Hayes' boyfriend, the guy she was actually dating at the time that the crime took place, the police quickly eliminated him as a suspect because he said I was working, and they checked with the manager and they said yes, he was working. Well, the manager was his mother.
Yes.
And all these years later, it turns out those timesheets look like they might have been falsified. In fact, we're pretty certain they were falsified.
Wow.
We've had another investigator took them to like 17 different LensCrafter employees, including the same manager who was working there, another manager, a different store at the same time. And he said, this is not a legitimate timesheet. So where was he? I mean, there were all these investigative leads that were dropped, right? There's so many things. I mean, if you think about Serial 12 episodes, we did like almost 40 episodes in the case. There's a lot there that was, as lawyers, we think it needs to be looked at.
So is it frustrating at this point? Because I know, Adnan won the right to a new trial, but then there's been some, but now there's like still some other hangups. Is there a frustration because, you see people like Kim Kardashian, getting involved now with criminal justice stories, and then that quickly she helped, and I'm drawing a blank on the woman's name, but kind of get that woman. And I know it's a totally different case, but it seems like Adnan's has really dragged out. Like there's been all this attention, but yet a lot of setbacks.
Yeah, the thing is like, and the same thing happened with the West Memphis 3 case, and it's very, very common in wrongful convictions. I mean, look, after doing Adnan's case, what happened was Innocence Projects in different parts of the country contacted us, and private attorneys contacted us saying, can you also do our client's case? Can you also,
wow.
And we've done 10 other wrongful convictions in the last 3 years on the show, and in every case you see the same pattern, which is the state keeps fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. So we have been mentally prepared that the state's going to keep appealing it until they can't appeal anymore, and that's where we are right now. We are at the last level of appeal. Adnan won the last appeal last year, and I'm sorry, this past spring, and then the state filed a new appeal.
Okay,
and it's the last appeal though; they can't appeal after this.
Wow.
So we have one more level, but there's some other things happening behind the scenes I can't really talk about right now, but I think he's going to be home soon is what I think. I think in the next year he'll be home. Appeal or not appeal. He's won we're moving in the right direction. It's frustrating. It'll be 20 years this January.
Well, I know.
Seems so long.
20 years, but we're moving in the right direction, so.
AJ, do you have a question for Rabia? I mean, I have a million.
Oh yeah, keep going.
Well, so no, my question too was, I don't know how much you can say about this, but clearly you say and have put forward evidence that Adnan did not do this. Do you know, or do you have a suspect of who you think did it? And if in fact Adnan is out in the next year, do you think that there will be a separate arrest in this story?
So I think, there are about two, I would say two strong viable alternate suspects, and I
Okay.
talk about them. I wrote a book about the case, and Adnan contributed to the book a couple of years ago as a New York Times bestseller. There's a lot in there that's not covered by either podcasts. So if you have listeners who are really obsessed with the story, check out the book. It's called Adnan's Story, and in there I kind of lay out a case for like this. Like if I were to reopen the investigation, I would absolutely start with her boyfriend at the time.
Yes, sure.
That's where I would begin. And that's how you work. You fully investigate a suspect, and then you try to eliminate them. And if he's fully investigated, I don't know what that would yield. But then there was, 6 months before Hay was killed, another young girl was killed, same area, strangled, her body dumped in the woods, 18 years old, very similar crime. That guy was the guy who killed that young woman, young girl. I mean, Jada Lambert. He was convicted in 2004 because they caught his DNA. Like her DNA had been
Yes.
tested. Now, in this case, the victim in this case, Heyman Lee, they took a rape kit from her body. They took fingernail clippings, and they never tested it.
Oh.
So think about it. The prosecutor we found the file. The prosecutor wrote on the top, "Do not hold for do not test." Basically, he didn't want to mess up his case. He was like, "I got Adnan. I don't want to get this tested and it be somebody else." So that evidence, that physical evidence, could still this day be tested,
Wow.
and it could point to somebody else. And yes, there could be an arrest in that situation.
Why do you think, and I know you've spoken on this before, but why do you think that Adnan has been arrested for this story, that the state has stuck by it so vehemently and never done things? And of course, look, I've done some investigative stuff for Fox, so sadly I see these things fall through the cracks all the time. But do you guys feel like it was any sort of racial prejudice? Do you think they just wanted to get this solved and done, and sadly Adnan was wrong place, wrong time? What's been your theory over the years?
Well, I mean, look, they needed a theory of the crime, right? And there was no theory that really fit for them because they couldn't find a motive.
Okay.
They couldn't find like a fact pattern. He had no violent history. They had to come up with something, and that something was the religious component. And the state is the one that repeatedly brought up his religion over and over again. So that component existed, but I think it existed because they realized they had to fill this gap, right? Because the jury's gonna be like, why would he want to do that? So they're like, oh, they came up with this crazy theory of this kid, he parties and he smokes pot and he drinks and he dates girls, but he's so strictly religious that he had to honor kill this girl. Also, forget being offended that they actually made the argument that's like part of my religion or something, but they had to fill in the blanks. But what really happened is not unusual in other wrongful convictions. And the interesting thing is the detectives that were involved in Adnan's case have been involved in other wrongful convictions where people have been exonerated.
Wow.
Two other men have been exonerated in the last few years in which the exact same detective. So what ends up happening is this, and I've seen this in Philadelphia, I've seen this in other cities we've done these cases. If you have one shady cop, he can impact a lot of defendants over his career. And so these, in the other two wrongful conviction cases where these men were actually fully exonerated after 18 and 20 years, what the officers had done was they had forced witnesses to make false statements. In one case, they told this woman, "You're going to say that you saw him do the shooting, or I'm going to take away your kids." They had a pattern, and in this case, Jay was that person that they coerced. And when people say, "How come Jay can't get his story straight?" Because that poor kid, I'm saying poor kid, but he was 19. He was told that he was going to be charged with the murder. They told him that. And he was just making up whatever he could on the fly to cover his butt, basically. And so that's how the whole thing started. They just wanted to close their case, and these guys have a pattern of doing it. Other exonerations, it's the same story over and over. But it doesn't take a whole conspiracy. It just takes a couple of shady detectives to do this to a lot of people.
Where do you think we're at? You now, of course, you turn on Netflix, Making a Murderer Staircase. I mean, I guess I'm just so impressed with you because I feel like, you sent that email, of course, to help Adnan, but then it really just set off this domino effect to some degree. And of course, I know Staircase and these shows were in the works perhaps at the time in 2014 when Serial came out. But, we are seeing like a light shed on the justice system. Do you think that these stories like Serial are helping to make things better? I mean, the justice system seems scary as hell in this country.
Yeah, I know. Look, Serial takes all the credit for shining that light. I think what Serial did was, I grew up with all these. I loved, like, the 2020 and Dateline, and
Yeah,
it was always
sure.
about, those shows were always about the cops getting the right person. So this narrative that sometimes we get the wrong person, we've known it in the back of our minds, but not. Serial is the one that made it, first of all, really interesting to
Yes.
talk about and listen. You know what I mean? They made it entertaining, and I think that was important, to bring awareness to the case. And absolutely, Making a Murderer, they've been working on that for years, but I think it got picked up by Netflix after Serial exploded. And the same thing, there are hundreds of true crime podcasts now.
Right.
Some of them all about cold cases, many of them about wrongful convictions. And I will say this, I personally, of the 10 defendants we've covered, um, in at least four of the 10, maybe 5 of the 10 cases. Well, they're all live cases, but at least 4, it looks like we're going to end up with plea deals at some point. And so there is an impact to people on the ground. There's another podcast called Truth and Justice. Bob Ruff, he investigates wrongful convictions, and he has helped exonerate one man in the last few years. I mean, it's making a difference. And so people now, and it's interesting, I saw the Scott Peterson, Lacey Peterson documentary that came out.
Yes.
And that's one of those cases when it was happening, I'm like, heck to the yes, this guy is guilty of sin. But I feel, and I'm not saying I don't think that anymore, I don't know.
Right.
But this documentary created enough doubt where you're like, God, we're looking at the system differently. We're looking at evidence differently. And I think it's important to do, especially as many of us will end up on juries. It's good to be informed.
Absolutely. Has a couple more questions for you, Robbie, and then I know we got to let you go. But what about Heyman Lee's family? Of course, you guys, Serial has brought so much light and so much support to Adnan. Has anyone over the years, they didn't participate in Serial, has anyone heard from them, how they're doing, what they believe? Are they open to thinking that someone else could have done this?
Yeah, I know Sarah Koenig tried very hard to reach them. Our team hasn't, and we shouldn't. It would be really wrong for us to reach out,
Okay.
Considering, that we're part of the defense team, basically. And we don't want anybody to ever say that they feel pressured because we reached out, or they felt uncomfortable, or anything. Excuse me, my phone.
Oh, sure. No.
So they apparently reached out to the prosecution as one of the appeals was going on. And the prosecutor read a statement that he said, this is from the Heyman Lee family. The truth is, I don't trust this prosecutor. I think he could totally make it up because I feel like he's completely unethical. But nobody's ever heard from them, like, directly, like on camera or on audio. I don't know a single person. But it's not unusual for victims' families to always, like, maintain that belief in. They need that,
Sure.
It would be really horrible if there's suddenly, if the entire process for them to go through the trial and get that conviction, it's a form of resolution. Now, when all
Sure.
that's been upturned, it's not just, you have no resolution for your loved one, but also the system failed you, right?
Yeah.
And if ever they're able to find, test the DNA, and I hope that happens in Adnan's case, and really find who killed her, I think the state owes her family an apology. They don't just owe
God.
an apology. They owe the family an apology.
Yes.
And they're the ones who failed them.
Thinking about that, you're such an optimist. I think a lot of people at this point are with you that believe that Adnan will at some point be free. Has Adnan given any thought to what he will do when he is actually free, or is that just something he can't comprehend yet until it happens?
I'm sure it's something he thinks about. I'll be honest, when we speak, we've really avoided that conversation because it just raises too many hopes, and he's he just doesn't want to get his hopes up. He's very cautiously optimistic, where I am a little more overtly optimistic. I remember when the first time the conviction was overturned, and we decided to apply for bail, and all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, if he gets bail, where is he gonna live? Is he gonna live? Because I don't think he should live back in Baltimore City where his family is. I don't trust, the police there, to be honest. And when you're out on bail, the smallest thing can get you thrown back in prison. And also he has no idea how much attention from the media there will be when he gets out, and how to handle all that. So we had these sudden. I mean, the bail was denied anyways, which in a way a little bit of a relief, because I was worried that he would get out, the media would hound him, other people would hound him, and he would end up messing up the bail, and something would happen. So we haven't thought about it. I think I mean, I think he can do whatever he wants.
Yes. Well, and I hope, I had read too, HBO was going to do a docuseries. I've always been curious, and from an attorney point of view, maybe you can tell us this, but I hope to some degree, is Adnan going to profit from this? Because, I mean, he still has to have big attorney fees. And then, the whole, once it's overturned, I don't know, it doesn't seem like the state really does end up compensating you much. Is he benefiting from all this? Because the story still is making money for people.
Yeah. So for his attorney fees for the last few years, and they've amounted to maybe $300,000-$400,000, we have paid from revenue through the podcast, and also from donations. And thank God, because honestly, this is the reason why defendants just run out of options. They can't pay lawyers anymore. That's a lot of money to pay, and so we've been able to cover that, thankfully. The thing is, with a lot of cases, if he ends up getting a plea deal, which is not uncommon, again, many wrongful convictions, the state finally gives up. They don't want to go back to trial, but they don't want to drop charges, so they offer a deal. The deal comes with the condition that you can't sue the state. We could end up with no damages. Now, the series that's going to be on HBO next year, he can't profit from that. He's in prison. I mean, and so there are things called Son of Sam laws, where a convicted felon cannot, or in certain cases, they can't profit off of stories made about them or this and that. I think Adnan can get out. If people want to donate to a fund for him, they could do that.
Yeah.
I hope when he gets out, he will write his own book. And books also don't make you rich. By the way, people are listening, you do not make money.
Oh,
but it's
you don't get rich off the book, huh? Yeah, no.
Don't get rich off the book. No. It's honestly, you get we get minimum wage with a book, the amount of time you put into it.
That's crazy. Even someone with your profile, that's amazing. So for people that don't have your profile, God, you're making then you're out of pocket. I hear a lot of people self-publish because it's,
Yeah. And we didn't self-publish, but honestly, I had to take 8 months off. I'm a lawyer, I'm a professional. I make good money in my career, but I had to take 8 months off to write the book. So I lost money in that time. And then even of the book deal, he's like I said, he's my little brother. I put aside a lot of money for him. So when he comes out, I'm going to gift him what I can gift him.
That's amazing.
And he'll be fine. He'll be fine. We'll set up speaker bureau stuff for him, and he'll be cool. We'll be okay.
Rabia, I just hope you understand what an impact, because I really do feel like it came from you. I really do feel like you set off the domino effect. I feel like you were such an inspiration for other women to stand up. It had to be difficult. It has to still be difficult all these years with having a life, a career, a family, and to stand by someone and believe in someone. I just think that I hope you understand what a great impact, because I watch these true crime shows and I really feel like they came from you, and you're. I do. I think it's great.
Yeah. Look, honestly, if the Serial team hadn't created an incredible series,
sure,
none of this would have happened. I give them full credit. The only credit I can take is the kind of credit that other people who stick by their loved ones take, which is just not walking away. I just didn't walk away, and that's and I'll take credit for that. But all the other phenomena, Serial is they launched a million ships, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah, they really did. Last question for you though: where if people are in this boat, I'm sure lots of people listening may know somebody who is currently in prison and wrongfully convicted. Where can people start? Do you have any information where people can get started to help another loved one that might be in this similar situation?
The most important thing in a situation like this, first of all, very few people get incarcerated unless they have one person on the outside who never gives up. The most important thing for a family member or friend of somebody who's wrongfully, convicted or whatever, is to get the record together. When that person's in prison, they can't get access to the files. Get all the police records you can, get the court records, file public information requests from the prosecutor's office, get the defense files, get all the documents you can together to preserve that record, so you have as much as you can, whether it's police interviews, everything you can get a hold of. And then you have to try to find a lawyer, obviously, to do it. But there are people who, without a lawyer, have done it. Then, you got to dig through it. Innocence projects are all over the country. It's also a good idea to contact law schools and ask if there are law students interested in looking at a case. A lot of law students are looking for opportunities, or they have clinics and say, I've got 10,000 pages of documents. Can somebody go through them with me, explain them to me? And so that's where you start. But that record is so important. And the second step of this, then, when you have somebody competent in place, like a lawyer or a law student, is you have to go back and interview witnesses over.
Wow.
over. Yeah.
Rabia, you are terrific. Thank you for being on. It's RabiaChaudry.com is your website. The book is The Search for Truth and Justice After Serial Adnan Story, New York Times bestseller. Okay, this is it. We're all depressed, though. New York Times bestseller, you still don't make money? We're depressed. We're never writing a book. Anyway, thank you.
Write the book anyways, but thank you so much for having me.
Rabia, you're terrific. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
You got it. I mean, I am so fascinated to see. I mean, will Adnan be free in the next year? Wouldn't that be wild?
I didn't know it was coming up that soon. I honestly, my biggest question for her, and you asked it right away, was that what is next for him? You know, because people, when they get out of jail, they've been incarcerated for so long. What is it, 20 years, right?
20 years.
And
20
you're thinking
years.
They're almost at a worse place. Out
Can you believe that bullshit?
I can't believe that they why wouldn't they test the nails and you know what I'm talking about?
I think because it costs money. I think the DNA costs money. I think it's
Who cares?
time consuming, costs money. They're so backlogged. And I think too, these justice systems, it seems like they form a story. And for some reason, these motherfuckers don't want to be they don't want to be open to thinking they could be wrong.
100%.
And it's like, what the fuck? You guys are working for the greater good of people.
You think they are, but apparently it's really messed up in there.
Well,
I would be so pissed off if I was any part of the family. I just don't understand why. And they've done so much already. Not saying they didn't do anything, because obviously Serial brought so much attention. But it frustrates me that they didn't test the DNA.
I know.
Like a lot of odds and ends that I don't understand. Like when I was listening to Serial, I was like, well, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do this?
Yeah. And, right then and there, I mean, too, in Serial, when they addressed the fact that Heyman Lee's boyfriend worked at that AT&T store, or Verizon, it might have been, I can't recall the actual store name, but that his mom was his boss.
Yeah.
And they went by that, was like, what?
Lens Crafters.
It was Lens Crafters.
Yeah.
Thank
His mom
you.
was the manager.
Now, that is such an important fact to know, that the mom was the manager.
Yeah, such an important fact. Shannon, what do you think? Because Shannon on our show also is a big true crime follower. You were obsessed with Serial. You knew exactly who Rabia was. What did you think of her interview? What do you think of the whole thing, and if his story, if Adnan will be out?
I'm not really sure what to think of him and as far as his, guilt goes, but I think that everything that Rabia had to say is very important, and I think that it is important to highlight these things, and that I definitely think that the detectives in the case, they come up with a theory, and then they sort of try to hammer that down.
And they go with that theory.
Right. Unfortunately, that's kind of what happens, and there's, hopefully there's something that somebody can do about it.
What is up with these shitty detectives? I mean, my God. What is going on?
Undertrained. Cops in general are undertrained, I think. They only have to go through 6 weeks of training or something like that.
That's
Something
scary.
that's crazy, yeah.
Is it because of a lack of people being interested in it?
Well, I did hear that. I mean, I've interviewed Chief Newsham in Washington, D.C., who's the police chief here in D.C. a couple times. And he does say now, because of, and a lot of the attention is deserved. These cops go out and way abuse their power, and they can't wait to blow you away. I mean, they can't wait to shoot you, So, I think because of that, a lot of people are not becoming police officers because they see. But, in lots of cases, too, police are, like you guys are saying, undertrained. I guess they're starting here in Washington, D.C. a little bit, but I think, the men and women that serve in the police force need therapy and mindfulness. It's hard to deal with, because lots of times you are dealing with mentally ill people who are attacking you. You're
see a lot.
Scared for your own safety.
Right.
So I'm sure you have to decompress every day. It's so hard. I think Shannon's right. They don't get the training. And then I think, there's all kinds of things. And to be a detective, look, I always say this. I learned so much from doing the Savopoulos story, which, we talked about. There's going to be some updates in that in the trial. It is so easy to see how these cases take so long. Police are overwhelmed. Detectives, they have multiple. In a city like Washington or Baltimore, you have tons of murders. You've got this girl. You've got to solve it. You've got probably 5 other murders.
That you're also thinking about. They don't get confused with these cases. I feel like their mind would be all over the place.
They probably think of how many errors we make in a day.
Oh, right.
Well, the problem is the stakes are higher. But
exactly, people's lives are on the line.
It takes so much time, so many resources. And then, you sometimes have people who don't want to cooperate. How much time can you spend? So I think like she said, Jay, they were like, you know what? This shady dude, it's either you or it's this kid who's uber religious from the mosque who, smokes weed. probably doesn't want to admit that to his parents, like every other teenager,
Right.
you know, done. And they pin it on him. Oh, I've always been fascinated by that. I'm so glad I wanted to have her on. Okay, last thing on the show, we do Pineapple Mail on Mondays. Pineapple Mail are all of your emails. And by the way, I've had people email me and go, hey, Sarah, are you going to write me back about your email? And I'm like, yeah, we read them on the show. So, look, this is the one I wanted to read. Hey, Sarah, you can always email Sarah at heyfrase.com. Hey, Sarah, love the podcast and have been listening to you for years. This article titled, Is Someone Orbiting You on Social Media? It may be hurting your mental health, needs to be discussed by you and the crew. I would love to hear your opinion. Why is no one talking about all the superficial relationships on social media? We are catering to these fake friends. Let's talk about it. So orbiting is essentially when somebody likes you, but they don't actually have, what is it, AJ? You know, really quick.
In this article, they were talking about when you break up with somebody and then the person that you broke up with, they'll go and they'll orbit you just to kind of stay in your world. Like they'll like a picture to show their presence. So
fake ass friends.
Right. And so, or somebody that just like isn't in your life anymore and you had a bad breakup with a friend and they're still following you on every form of social media and they like your pictures. They won't comment, but they'll just show their presence. And they were saying that the person that broke up with how do I explain it? Like, it's just not a good thing. Psychologically, you're still thinking about them when you're supposed to have a break.
And they're not really interested in you.
And they're
Can't
not really
you just
interested
block
in
them
you.
or mute them? Or
That's
you
what
don't
you're-
want to be that extreme?
But they say psychologically, you almost want their likes and their comments. You're like, oh, I broke up with them. But because of the human nature is how we are, we kind of never want to end a relationship because we're social creatures.
Oh,
so they say like we
fascinating.
secretly want to like we want to see those likes from the people we broke up with.
Okay, well, I'm going to do more research. Now I want to talk about this.
So break up with Dan, see if he still likes you on social media.
He won't. He's not even on. He could give a shit. The other day I was like, would you be upset? Like if we watched Mission Impossible. We went to the movies and
We went to the movies.
Tom Cruise's
Cute.
wife in there has to marry somebody else to keep his identity like secret. And I was like,
Oh, yeah.
would you be upset if I had to marry somebody else? He goes, no. I just want
be
you to
open
be
with it.
happy. I'm like,
Oh,
fuck off.
okay.
Okay,
Fuck
anyway,
off.
we're out of
Damn.
here. Email us, Sarah@heyfrase.com. Bye, everybody. Love you. Bye. Love you. Rock the Cast Pod. Bye, everybody. Rock the Cast Pod. Rock the Cast Pod. No, he'd be out. He's out. He's like, go marry someone else.
Bye, Dan.
Then why don't we just live Big Love right now? Or what's the show where they all marry each other? They have multiple wives. I'll have multiple husbands.
Multiple husbands.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Hey,
Sister
friends.
wives.
Yeah. Okay. Sister husbands.